What's up everybody, my name is Kyle, and today is another Marvel catch-up review, specifically on the latest projects from the MCU. At this point in time, a lot of people would probably say that these are some of the weaker things to come out of the MCU. In fact, some have chosen not to even bother watching them, which could be very telling of the future of the MCU, potentially. Regardless, I will still go into these projects level-headed and hope to come out the other side with some sort of informative review. Without further ado, let's begin by reviewing The Marvels. Directed by Nia DaCosta, this follows on from the events of Ms. Marvel, where Kamala Khan, Carol Danvers and Monica Rambeau's powers are all entangled, which forces them to work together to save the universe from being ripped apart. Overall, I actually didn't think this was as bad as people were making it out to be. Like, genuinely people were hating on this prior to its release. Now, not saying this is amazing, but it's not the worst MCU film we've had. I'm looking at you, Thor: Love and Thunder. The good points of this film. I thought the team dynamics between Carol, Monica and Kamala were pretty decent. They all seem to flow well together and have that sisterhood synergy, which is nice. I definitely felt that Iman Vellani, who plays Kamala, more or less was the scene stealer of the film. She seemed very comfortable, fun, and the most energetic of the bunch. I liked how the antagonist Darben's overall plan was to take the resources of other worlds to sustain hers because of what Carol did, kind of reinforcing the consequences of superhero battles and the accountability from it. The bad points of this film. Coming in at 1 hour and 45 minutes long, this currently holds the record for the shortest MCU film. And it being a team-up film with a high-stakes end-of-the-universe scenario really could have benefited in being longer and more fleshed out. We could have explored more of the dynamics and growth of the Marvels team, as well as spending more time getting to know Darben. On the subject of Darben, she was one of the weakest parts of this film and probably would go down as one of the most forgettable and least impactful villains of the MCU. We rarely had time to get to know her or really do much that made her a threatening force not to be messed with. I guess what I'm trying to say is that she didn't really have much of a presence in relation to the other antagonists that we've seen before. I'd say a big problem with this film that Mark Kermode touched upon in his review is the explanations of characters not seen on the big screen. For die-hard fans of the MCU, this isn't a problem, as they would have likely seen both WandaVision and Ms. Marvel. But for the average cinema goer, it could come across as really confusing, especially when you haven't had time with either Monica or Kamala before. The film should have factored this in and maybe done something briefly to explain both these characters. This in turn could have added to the runtime and made things more understandable. Overall, I would give The Marvels a 5 out of 10. This by no means is the worst MCU film, like everyone is making it out to be. What you saw in the trailers is what the overall vibe of the film is, and if you go in with those expectations, they will certainly be met. Of course, this film has its flaws. It's far too short, doesn't really give many characters any progressive arcs, the antagonist is very forgettable and dull, and they really need to explain who Kamala and Monica were to the casual viewers. Moving on to the next MCU review, which is What If Season 2. This is a continuation of the last series, where we follow the Watcher, who narrates us through various realities in the MCU. Overall, this series wasn't too bad. It had a good handful of episodes, but it's nowhere near as good as the first series. I really like the art style in this show. It feels like you're in a comic book. The fact that this show could go on for years with the endless scenarios is genius. Although I've heard recently that there may only be just 4 seasons of the show. I really liked episode 2, which was Peter Quill attacking Earth's mightiest heroes, episode 3 where Happy Hogan saves Christmas, episode 4 with Iron Man crash landing on Sakaar, and episode 6 where we are introduced to Kahori, an original character. These episodes in particular were either a lot of fun, interesting, and just felt like they were well done for something that's only half an hour long each. The bad points of this show. Although I picked out a couple of episodes that I liked, I would have to admit that the series in general was probably not as strong as the first season. It kind of felt like some of the ideas were not as interesting as season 1, such as the zombies episode or T'Challa becoming Star-Lord. I think for me, my least favourite thing about this series was the finale of the show. It just came across as a bit too outlandish. It was great seeing Strange Supreme again, don't get me wrong, but the episode just felt wonky, rushed and all over the place. It kind of gave me PTSD of the Secret Invasion finale, when all the multiversal variants of various characters were throwing these special unique weapons at Kahori and Peggy, and they were able to utilise them all. I really don't get why we have to end a series with these over-the-top battles. Overall, I would give What If Season 2 a 7 out of 10. The 3D animation art style is brilliant. This show has some great visual details in it, and the creative scope of this show could be so endless and imaginative. I would say that the episode ideas have the potential to be really good. It's just a case of figuring out which ones they are and picking the right stories to tell. Looking forward to season 3, if that is coming this year. And finally, onto the last Marvel project that I'm going to review, which is Echo. Directed by Sidney Freeland, this takes place after the events of the Hawkeye miniseries, where Maya Lopez must come to terms with her past, reconnect with her Native American roots, and embrace the family and community within that world, if she ever wants to move forward. Overall, I would say for the most part, this show wasn't so bad, but as per usual with most of the Disney Plus projects, they always seem to find difficulty wrapping the shows up and giving us really weak endings. The good points of this show. I really liked how grounded for the most part this felt. It took place mostly in a small town in Oklahoma. The action sequences for the most part were pretty decent and gritty. I mean, that brief fight between Maya and Daredevil was epic. Makes me hyped for the upcoming Daredevil show. This segment wouldn't be complete without mentioning Vincent D'Onofrio as the Kingpin. They made him look like a joke in Hawkeye, but in this, they definitely improved on this. He was intimidating, ruthless, and domineering. I admit that I found it bizarre with how easy it was for Maya to defeat him at the end, but I believe this was to set things up for his upcoming appearance in Daredevil. I also want to mention how I appreciated the Native American references in this show and how they allowed Maya's character to develop and grow as the show progressed. It was nice to see Maya's ancestry and its significance to her life. The bad points of this show. It comes as no surprise when I say that the finale of this show really ruined things for me. Once again, it was the shortest episode of the series, and not to mention felt rushed too. The show was teasing Maya's powers that were of course linked to her heritage, but I just found it so sudden that Maya's family all somehow managed to gain these powers at the exact same time. I would have preferred it if it was just Maya who did all the work, as it would have allowed her to show off her full potential, instead of making it like a Shazam rehash. While I liked Alico Cox's performance as Maya for the most part, I couldn't help but wonder if she was stoic as she was in this than she was in the comics. She displayed some emotions, but it kind of reminded me of Brie Larson in the first Captain Marvel film. Overall, I would give Echo a 6 out of 10. This feels like a watered down version of the Daredevil show effectively. It feels like this is teasing that upcoming series well, which is kind of funny. I will say I liked the earlier fight scenes, and I could tell Alico Cox was having fun with playing Maya, but the finale really ruined the rest of the series for me. It felt kind of underwhelming, but having the addition of Kingpin made parts of it worth watching. So in conclusion, those are my thoughts and opinions on the Marvels, What If Season 2 and Echo. But what about you? What did you think of these latest MCU projects? Comment down below your ratings and rankings and give your reasons why. Like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye!